So this is my lesson plan presentation for CUAI 3510. And this is going to be addressing the first grade measurement and data standard. The standard that this lesson is based off of is measure lengths indirectly and by iterating length units. That is 1 MDA1, which it says order 3 objects by length. Compare the lengths of 2 objects indirectly by using a third object. For example, to compare indirectly the heights of Bill and Susan, if Bill is taller than Mother and Mother is taller than Susan, then Bill is taller than Susan. Some I can statements that drive this instruction would be I can tell why I placed given items in a certain order, and I can place items in order from shortest to longest without measuring them. And some essential questions that drive the instruction is how can I tell if something is longer than another thing without measuring them? And why is it important to be able to order objects by length? So some assessments that are going to address the standard, there's 3 objectives that fit for the standard. So the first objective that's going to be assessed would be the learner will compare the lengths of objects. And to assess this objective, students will identify 3 students in order of height indirectly. So the students should be able to correctly place the students in order without knowing their height measurements. The teacher will use a student checklist to mark which students are showing understanding of this objective. The second objective says the learner will produce examples of differentiating lengths. So the students will be given Play-Doh to produce 3 examples of things with different lengths. So the student will use their whiteboard and eraser to list the things from shortest to longest. So an example would be 3 baseball bats. So the teacher will ask them to create 3 baseball bats using their Play-Doh and place them on their whiteboard. Then they will take their dry erase marker and number them 1 through 3, shortest to longest. So they can create whatever objects that they wish. They will then use their creations, and after labeling them, a rubric will be used to evaluate the student to see if they created 3 objects of different lengths and placed them in order correctly. And the third objective is the learner will rank multiple objects in order. So students will number various items on a worksheet in order from longest to shortest. So this is typically going to be like a quiz worksheet, like an example is on the right. It could be anything like rulers, pencils, hot dogs, like the stuff that's on that worksheet. They're going to be pretty much doing what they did when they created the Play-Doh, but this time is assessing them in order to be able to rank them specifically. So the key language task is going to be a think, pair, share, where the students use Legos and create 2 sticks that the teacher will have them compare the length to, and then they'll be asked to get together, think about their answer, pair with a partner, and share it. When they have to think of 2 random things in the world, like the example says a car and a giraffe, and then they have to use the anchor chart to explain to their partner why one thing is longer than the other and why they believe that, how they can prove that. So they have to be able to explain their answers. So the objective that goes with the key language task is the learner will explain which of their 2 chosen things is longer than the other. Some higher order thinking questions that go with this standard would be, give me an example of 2 things where one is longer than the other. How did you know which item was the longest? Why do we need to know if something is longer than the other? How did I know that I ordered them correctly? Did we accomplish our I can statements? So to set the lesson up and encourage the motivation for the students to be engaged in the lesson, the teacher is going to start by telling the students to find one classmate that is taller than them and one that is shorter. So this is where the student will go around and they'll find one just by looking at them without measuring them or seeing how tall they are. They'll find one that's taller and one that's shorter, and then they'll share their findings after everyone's done that. If they find that they are the tallest in the class, so nobody's taller than them, or if they're the shortest, nobody's shorter than them, they'll share that in their findings. Then the teacher will introduce to the class what they'll be learning about, which is the standard about measuring the length of objects indirectly. And then after the teacher states the objectives, the I can statements, and she'll ask the essential questions to the class, the student will think about these and open their thought process to these I can statements. And then the teacher will use the YouTube video linked below to make the connections between this lesson with measuring objects indirectly in the real world, like how they can take what they've learned and used it in the real world. And then that's when the teacher will show the anchor chart that has the vocabulary that will be used in the think, pair, share. So for the actual instruction, the teacher will start by showing students two carrots that are different lengths. And then the teacher will ask the students to raise their hands to answer which carrot they believe is the longest. And then the teacher will initiate in a higher thinking ordered question by asking them why they think it's longer. How did they know that that one was longer than the other? And that's when the student will be able to use their thinking and their thought process. It's not just a simple, yes, that one's longer than this one. They have to explain how they know that. So then the teacher will provide students with 10 Legos each, and they have to take about 5 minutes to build two sticks that don't have the same number of blocks in them. So they're gonna have two sticks, but one's gonna be longer than the other. So then the teacher will go around the room and take every student's two sticks and ask the class which is longer, just so they can get to used to the fact that they're going to be creating things where one is longer than the other, and they have to know which one is longer than the other. And then the teacher will instruct students. This is the think, pair, share with the partner. So this teacher will ask the students to think about two random things in the world, which one is longer, and explain their thoughts with the partner. They'll be directed to use the language in the anchor chart for this activity. So the teacher, this is the higher order thinking part, where the teacher asks the students to give an example of two things, or one is longer than the other. They're not given two, and they have to pick one. They have to think of two things themselves, which initiates a higher order thinking process. Next part of the lesson, the teacher is going to show the students three crayons that are different lengths, then ask the students to rank them from shortest to longest, using 1, 2, and 3, 1 being the shortest, 3 being the longest. Then the teacher will ask them to arrange them in the order. So she will move them, but she'll hold them not in order, and they'll have to say this one's the shortest, this one's the middle, this one's the longest, and then the teacher will move them around in the order they stated them, and they should go up in order of shortest to longest. So then after they do that, the teacher will call on three students to come to the front of the class, and then they'll stand in a line side by side. And the teacher is going to ask the students in the class to order three students from the shortest to the tallest student without knowing their actual height. So this is where they're going to be measuring indirectly and ordering them indirectly. So then they'll repeat this process with three different students every time until everyone gets a chance to be in the group. And then the higher ordered question that goes with this activity is, how did you know that you ordered the students correctly? So they'll have to explain, well, he's taller than him and she's taller than him, but she's not taller than him. So they'll have to order those students that way, and they'll have to be able to explain how they know that. Then the teacher is going to use the Play-Doh. And this is that second objective in the assessments, where they are asked to create three things of different lengths and put them on the whiteboard and then rank them from shortest to longest. This is where the teacher is going to use the motivation techniques of letting them have the creativity to create whatever they wish. Like if they like sports, they could do baseball bats, or if they like snakes, pencils, whatever they wish, just as long as they can exhibit and show that they know how to create three different lengths of whatever they want, then that fits the objective. And then the teacher is going to hand out the quiz worksheet, and they'll put their name on it, of course. And then the students will have to number the boxes like that worksheet from the third objective. And they'll do this independently, without a friend, without a group, without talking. This is an individual quiz. And then if they wish to listen to soft music during the quiz, they can. And then after they finish, they'll use the turn-in bucket to complete the quiz. And then the teacher will use a checklist of like a correct worksheet to compare correct answers to assess the students. So the closing of this lesson is when the teacher would relate the lesson to how we measure with units versus indirectly. So this lesson was indirect, and then the next step up would be using units to measure. So that's how the teacher is going to relate this lesson to the next lesson. And then the teacher is going to ask, why do we need to know if something was longer than another? This is going to be one of those higher thinking ordered questions that gets the students process going, that isn't just a simple yes or no question. They makes them think about it and think about why, and it also relates it to the real world, as in why they actually need to know it. Then if they have any other questions about anything, this will be the time that they ask. And this is also when the teacher will have them state the I can statements again, and they'll repeat them so that they can show, they should be able to show those I can statements. They should be true at this point. When they're saying them, they should be able to do what they're saying in the I can statements. And then the teacher will ask them to get ready to go to the next situation, which would be the playground or specials, wherever they're having to go. They'll clean up anything on their desk and go. So some materials that was used in this lesson was the Play-Doh for the lesson where they have to create 3 things, and then they'll use the whiteboard to put the Play-Doh on, and then the dry erase markers to rank them. And then the quiz worksheets, the carrots when the teacher was comparing the links, Legos where they're building their own sticks, the crayons of 3 different links, and then the anchor chart that the teacher creates. And the technology used would be the smartboard for the YouTube video at the set of the lesson. And then the rationale, Marzano stated that higher level questions produce deeper learning than lower level questions. So instead of just simply saying, is this longer than this? And they would say yes, you're asking them, how do you know that this is longer than this? So they have to actually think about the answer and how they know why this is longer than that. Like they have to be able to explain it, and it gets their thought process going a little bit more than asking just a simple yes or no. And then the theories used, Bloom's taxonomy was used to create the learning objectives so that the students can show their understanding, like how we know they understand the objective. The Bloom's taxonomy was used for that. And then Vygotsky's theory on social constructivism was used with the think, pair, share when they're getting with their partners and they're teaching each other and they're experiencing their own thoughts along with their partner's thoughts. And it's sort of a reflecting process where they're getting to share their ideas and getting to hear an idea, which can make connections for, especially for a student that may be struggling to get that objective. They could hear their partner's explanation, and it could click in their brain. And then Piaget's theory on constructivism was used with the hands-on learning, so the creating the Legos and then the using the Play-Doh to create their own 3 things. That's where Piaget's theory on constructivism comes in. That's all. Thank you.